Welcome to Zodiac Talks Tarot, where we speak plainly about cosmic weather and human choice, and where a little psychological realism keeps our feet on the ground even as we glance at the stars. I'm your longtime researcher, equal parts astrologer, social observer, and patient note-taker of human patterns, and today we're diving into Sagittarius. This is serious, the universe just hit reset. If you're hearing this, it's not a happy accident of autoplay, it's timing, the kind that makes even skeptics admit the script sometimes writes us before we write it. Take a breath, the kind that reminds your ribs they have a job, and let's call this season what it is, not chaos, choreography. Life has quietly moved the furniture in your inner living room, and you're standing there wondering who shoved the couch 2 feet to the left. The answer, inconveniently, is your future self. This isn't punishment and it isn't a test, it's a recalibration, the signature move of a universe that knows you're one of the chosen ones of this stretch, warming up for the year of triumph 2025. You may feel fatigue in the mind, heaviness in the heart, or the kind of spiritual jet lag that makes you stare at the ceiling at 2:17 a.m. Psychologists call it adaptive stress, mystics call it ascension, and Buddhists might say you're finally meeting the mind without running from it. The Sagittarius paradox is that you are both explorer and experiment, charting the map while simultaneously being the terrain. Of course, it's exhausting. Think of it as a software update, everything flickers, the icons jump, you swear the settings menu changed places, and then without fanfare your system runs smoother. Your task is not to force outcomes but to refine attention, because where attention goes, the next chapter grows. Practically, that means less doom scrolling and more deliberate nutrition for the nervous system. Breathe like it's a skill, walk like it's a practice, shower like water is memory. If comparison has your shoulders up around your ears, remember that envy is just desire without a plan. Put the plan back in. If you feel out in the cold, it's not exile, it's the 5 minutes on the porch where you remember why home matters. The Page of Pentacles energy around you hints at honest beginnings, new skills, new routines, perhaps an unglamorous apprenticeship to your own potential. Humility is not a demotion but a runway. The Six of Swords whispers that calm is not a place you find on a map but a speed you choose for your thoughts. Acceptance is not passivity, it's efficiency. From a Buddhist angle, reduce the optional suffering. You can keep the pain or you can keep your energy, but you rarely get to keep both. Meanwhile, the cosmos loves a joke, so expect synchronicities with impeccable comedic timing, a number sequence on a receipt, a name on a billboard just as you declare you're over it. Take the wink, not the bait. If an inner child you've ignored knocks for attention, answer without sarcasm. Wonder is not naivete, it is oxygen. Speak to yourself as you would to a bright student on a hard day, which, to be fair, you are. And if you need a one-line instruction for this reset, try this: do less fixing and more listening. The future that fits is quieter than the one you fear, and it requires you to hear it. So here's our agenda today. Sagittarius, greet the reset, respect the fatigue, feed your attention wisely, and let wisdom be measured not by how loudly you push forward but by how gracefully you allow what is real to emerge. The couch moved because you grew. Sit down, recalibrate, and then stand up with intention. The door you're looking for is already ajar. Being a Sagittarius in transition is like trying to drive and design the car at the same time. You're the explorer and the experiment, the researcher and the lab rat, the teacher and the student, all rolled into one restless soul who refuses to read the manual. You're watching your own expansion unfold, analyzing it like a scientist while starring in the experiment, and it's exhausting in a way caffeine can't fix. Recently, you may have noticed your body staging small rebellions: fatigue, sleeplessness, emotions that fluctuate faster than the stock market. The internet calls it ascension symptoms, psychologists call it adaptive stress responses, and if you asked a Buddhist monk, they'd simply say, you're meeting your mind. In other words, welcome to evolution. The body always reacts first when the spirit upgrades. It trembles under new frequencies like an old radio searching for a clearer station. You're shedding old energy, reactions, and desires that no longer fit your next form. Think of it as a system update. The screen flickers, the apps shuffle, everything glitches for a moment, and then suddenly your operating system feels lighter. Same body, better software. The universe isn't testing your strength, it's teaching your nervous system to breathe in thinner air. You've been living in the valley too long, Sagittarius. The summit calls, and yes, the oxygen is rarefied up there. What you're feeling isn't collapse, it's recalibration disguised as discomfort. The uncertainty hovering over your finances, your relationships, your next step, it's not punishment. It's divine space making. As the monks remind their students, don't mistake stillness for stagnation. You're not stuck, you're fermenting. And like good wine, fermentation requires time, darkness, and a kind of patience that no Sagittarius enjoys. The cosmic irony is that spirit keeps teaching you patience, the one virtue you'd least like to major in. But that's how the arrow learns to fly straight. It waits in tension before release. Enter the Page of Pentacles and the Five of Pentacles, your unexpected professors for this phase of life. The page arrives like a bright student with ink-stained fingers and the humbling awareness of not knowing. It's your beginner era, when life pulls your seasoned soul back into a classroom and hands you a pencil with no eraser. Perhaps you've started a new job, learned a skill, or returned to your spiritual practice with fresh curiosity. It feels awkward, maybe even embarrassing. Sagittarius prefers to teach, not stumble through the syllabus, but this is the apprenticeship your next chapter demands. Meanwhile, the Five of Pentacles lurks in the background, the card of exclusion and temporary loss, of standing outside in the snow while everyone else seems warm inside. Yet here's the cosmic joke, Sagittarius doesn't really do cold. You radiate humor and resilience even when life tries to frostbite your optimism. So if it feels like certain doors have closed or certain people have drifted, don't interpret that as rejection. It's redirection. The universe has quietly unsubscribed you from energies that no longer match your bandwidth. Perhaps you've been investing time or love in things that no longer return dividends. Spirit's message is clear, enough with being the teacher. Be the learner again. Of course, that stings the ego. Sagittarius builds identity through vision and adventure, not vulnerability. But humility isn't humiliation, it's a recalibration of truth. The Five of Pentacles isn't abandonment, it's your own soul knocking from the inside, whispering, "Remember me." So if you feel financially pressed or emotionally disconnected, don't panic. You're not losing. You're rebooting. And the universe, contrary to popular fear, never deletes your story without creating a backup. The chapters aren't missing, they're being rewritten to fit your new rhythm. Sagittarius, if you're honest, even a spiritual crisis is just another kind of road trip to you. You may not know the destination, but you do know that the scenery is part of the lesson. You've always been the sign willing to get lost for the sake of finding meaning. Now you're simply doing that inwardly. The map this time isn't external, it's printed across your nervous system and drawn in the language of patience, humility, and recalibrated desire. There's humor in that, if you can see it. The universe has essentially placed you in an emotional GPS rerouting cycle, recalculating, make a U-turn when possible. So laugh, because it's the healthiest response to divine irony. You're not behind. You're between worlds, which is exactly where transformation always begins. The Six of Swords has always been one of my favorite cards to talk about, especially when it shows up for Sagittarius, because it captures something essential about your soul, motion with meaning. Picture it: an unremarkable little boat, gray skies overhead, and a still sheet of water that feels half forgiving, half warning. It's the moment after the storm, the calm that only looks boring if you've never been through chaos. This is you, Sagittarius, quietly steering away from the battlefield of your own overthinking. You've been at war with expectations, your own, the world's, maybe even your family's version of who you're supposed to be, and somewhere along the line, you realized that fighting shadows with logic doesn't work. The only weapon left is acceptance. The Six of Swords doesn't promise peace as a prize, it promises that awareness creates peace, not the other way around. And you, of all signs, are painfully self-aware. You notice everything, the tone in people's voices, the meaning behind silence, the way timing shifts in a room when energy changes. You read life like a seasoned anthropologist observing the human tribe, scribbling field notes on absurd behavior, sometimes your own included. But that awareness can also be exhausting. Your mind gallops faster than your emotions can walk, and you end up dragging your heart behind the horse. Spirit's advice is deceptively simple: slow the current. Meditation isn't about silencing your thoughts, it's about giving them fewer espresso shots. You don't have to be the Buddha under a tree, just someone who knows when to stop checking the weather in their own head. Because lately, you've been treating every wave as a personal message from the cosmos, when sometimes, Sagittarius, a wave is just a wave. Not everything has symbolic meaning. Some days, life's just humidity and traffic. The Buddha said, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, which, I'm convinced, was written by a Sagittarius who finally learned how to sit still without planning their next flight out of enlightenment. So if your life feels heavy right now, try doing less fixing and more floating. Stop micromanaging destiny. Surrender the illusion of control and let the current show you that trust is a form of intelligence, not naivete. There's an elegant irony here: when you stop fighting the water, it carries you home faster. That's exactly where you are now, between chaos and calm, between letting go and arriving. You are doing better than you think, even if progress feels like standing still. The truth is, the real hero's moment isn't the victory speech after the battle, it's the quiet surrender after realizing not every war deserves your sword. Anyone can fight. Only the wise know when to rest. And since wisdom loves practicality, let's bring this conversation down to earth, literally. Your body has been sending gentle memos that you've been ignoring, and it's getting louder. Can we stop pretending stress is a personality trait? Sagittarius energy is absorbent by nature. You pick up the world the way a sponge picks up a spill. You scroll, you listen, you empathize, and you internalize. Then you wonder why you feel heavy even on good days. Spirit's message is clear: detox. But not the kind that involves kale, charcoal, or a subscription box. This is a detox of attention. What you watch, what you read, what you eat, what you scroll, these are all part of your mental diet. If your morning starts with doom-scrolling headlines, that's your breakfast. If you spend your afternoon comparing your real life to someone else's filtered one, that's your lunch. And by dinner, you're spiritually bloated. No wonder you can't sleep. So this week, try feeding your energy differently. Unfollow guilt. Mute anxiety. Block people who make your nervous system tighten. Take a long shower not as hygiene but as a ritual, because for Sagittarius, water is a kind of temporary temple. When you stand under that cascade and let the heat melt your thoughts, you're not just washing off the day, you're recalibrating frequency. There's something holy about water. It doesn't judge, it just cleanses. Let it do its quiet work. People love to call Sagittarius the traveler, but lately you've been taking too many trips outside yourself, chasing stories, adventures, and distractions. The real expedition now is the one that takes you inward. You don't need to escape, you need to arrive. Home isn't a destination on a GPS, it's a nervous system finally exhaling after years of pretending it didn't need rest. So take this as your permission slip to slow down without guilt. The world will keep spinning even if you take a day to stand still. The inbox can wait. The next goal can simmer. You don't have to earn your peace, you only have to remember it. It's not hiding in another city, job, or lover, it's folded neatly inside your breath, waiting for you to notice. The Six of Swords reminds you that healing rarely feels heroic, it often looks like someone quietly rowing away from everything that doesn't make sense anymore. That's not defeat. That's maturity. You've outgrown adrenaline as a lifestyle. The storm has done its work. Now it's time to let the water carry you. You're not drifting aimlessly, you're gliding toward balance. Somewhere between surrender and strength lies serenity, and that's where you're heading, one honest breath at a time. Welcome back to Zodiac Talks Tarot, the quiet corner of the internet where cosmic weather meets human psychology, where ancient symbols share coffee with modern uncertainty, and where laughter is treated as a spiritual discipline. I'm your longtime researcher, the kind who has studied human behavior through both the telescope and the microscope, who has spent enough time watching Sagittarius energy to know that your optimism is not just a mood, it's a survival strategy. Today we're exploring your late season message, Sagittarius. The universe is speaking your language again, only this time it's whispering through signs, numbers, and the strange coincidences that keep following you around like a persistent subplot. Let's begin with those little interruptions in your day, the repeating numbers, the uncanny timing, the songs that play just when you think of someone you swore you were done thinking about. These aren't random hiccups in the matrix, they're small, shimmering winks from reality itself. You call them coincidences, but the universe calls them invitations. When 1111 flashes across your phone, don't wish for something, remember that you are already being reminded. When the same phrase, symbol, or image keeps appearing, it isn't the world mocking you, it's life holding up a mirror saying, see. You're paying attention now. The universe, I've found, is a very patient math teacher. It keeps giving you the same equation until you solve it, not with intellect but with awareness. Sagittarius energy thrives on discovery, so naturally, your lessons arrive disguised as riddles. But here's the trick, every sign you notice is just a breadcrumb, not the whole feast. You're supposed to follow it with curiosity, not dissect it like a lab sample. If you see 555, it doesn't mean pack your bags or invest in crypto, it means something inside you is syncing up with the rhythm of change. And yes, sometimes spirit has a wicked sense of humor. It will plaster your ex's name on a billboard right after you post about moving on. It's not punishment, it's proof that enlightenment comes with irony. Laugh when this happens. Laughter, after all, is vibration too, and your laughter bright, warm, unfiltered is the cosmic language Sagittarius was born to speak. Now, if there's an angel assigned to this season, it's Archangel Gabriel, the symbol of communication, rebirth, and the gentle nudge to stop ghosting your own inner child. For you, Sagittarius, Gabriel doesn't descend with trumpets or glowing wings, he shows up quietly, often through memory. Maybe you catch yourself missing who you were at 10 years old, the wild imagination, the fearless curiosity, the version of you that didn't check the odds before taking a leap. That's the part of you calling now. In psychology, we call it the inner child. In Buddhist thought, it's the original mind, pure awareness before the noise of adulthood set in. You've been so busy being wise lately, advising friends, making responsible decisions, saving the world with philosophy, that you've forgotten the kind of wisdom that comes from play. When was the last time you allowed yourself to be ridiculous? To dance like you were auditioning for a comedy rather than a documentary? Sagittarius humor is divine medicine. You laugh in the face of uncertainty, not because you're careless, but because you instinctively know that joy is sacred. Gabriel's message for you is simple but profound. Healing doesn't happen through endless analysis, it happens when you remember how to wonder. The child within you doesn't need therapy so much as it needs permission. Let them paint badly, dream extravagantly, sing off-key, and love without a 5-year plan. When you do, you awaken the most powerful part of yourself, the one that believes life is still a grand adventure. That's the real angelic activation everyone keeps talking about, and it doesn't require a ritual. It happens every time you choose curiosity over cynicism. Because when you reconnect with innocence, you don't regress, you evolve. You stop reacting to life as if it's happening to you and start creating as if you're in partnership with it. That, Sagittarius, is your superpower for the coming cycle, and it's exactly what will define your year of triumph 2025. The world doesn't need more cynics with opinions, it needs philosophers with humor, travelers who remember that truth can be both serious and playful. So here we are, at the conclusion of your journey for now, a storm survived, lessons integrated, a traveler finally returning home. You've endured those dark nights of the soul, the exhaustion that felt permanent, the doubts that whispered louder than faith, and yet, you're still here. Still curious. Still hungry for meaning. The deeper intelligence of life, what we might poetically call the angels, wants to remind you, you haven't lost anything that was meant to stay. What fell away couldn't breathe at the new altitude you're reaching. The fatigue you feel isn't failure, it's the cost of growth. Ascension burns calories, and you've been running a spiritual marathon. But now, you've reached the clearing. The world around you is quieter, and for the first time in a long time, the silence isn't threatening, it's restorative. Sagittarius, your job now isn't to chase the next opportunity, it's to recognize the miracle of arrival. Stand still for a moment. Feel your timeline catching up to your heartbeat. The year of triumph 2025 isn't going to reward those who hustle blindly, it's going to bless those who align gracefully. The chosen ones of this season aren't the loud winners, they're the quiet listeners, the ones who trust the rhythm beneath appearances. You were never broken, Sagittarius, you were under renovation. Every detour, every delay, every misstep was scaffolding for the cathedral you're becoming. So tonight, light a candle. Not for luck, but for clarity. Whisper to yourself, I let healing and light reach all parts of myself. Then, as only a Sagittarius can, laugh. Laugh because you survived, because you learned, because even the universe appreciates a good punchline delivered with faith. Your path is unfolding exactly as it should. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're right on divine schedule, hair messy, socks mismatched, heart in recovery, but spirit intact. The choreography of your life includes both the detours and the dances, and the music is still playing. When things feel too heavy again, and they will, because life is cyclic, remember that you're not falling apart, you're falling into place. You've always been the arrow and the wind, and the aim is still perfect even if you don't see the target yet. As this reading closes, take it as both reassurance and invitation. Reassurance that your storm was worth it, an invitation to live again with the kind of reckless grace that makes Sagittarius energy so unmistakable. You've been through enough seriousness, now comes the sweetness. Enjoy your own company. Flirt with possibility. Let your laughter echo through spaces that once held fear. The cosmos isn't asking you to become anyone else, it's asking you to remember how free you already are. You are the philosopher who turns confusion into story, the comedian who disarms darkness with honesty, the traveler who teaches the rest of us that meaning isn't found by escaping life but by embracing it fully, with style. Welcome home, Sagittarius. The year of triumph 2025 is waiting for you not as a destination, but as a companion. You've earned the right to slow down, to enjoy your own wisdom without rushing to prove it. So take this moment to breathe, to smile, to recognize that you are both the student and the teacher, the journey and the map. And if this message has found you at exactly the right time, and it always does, then I invite you to stay connected. Like the video if it resonated, share it with another wandering soul who might need a reminder that the universe still speaks in humor and symmetry, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, Zodiac Talks Tarot, where we keep exploring how cosmic design meets human experience. Every sign has its season, and every season has its lesson. Yours, Sagittarius, is simple: you don't have to chase the light when you remember you are the spark.